Erectile dysfunction simply means inability of a man to achieve or attain an erection for satisfactory sexual performance. So from the words, there are key things that need to come out there. So there's one inability to achieve. So others, the problem is failure to achieve. Others are able to achieve, but then they don't have the ability to maintain. And in both cases, these are issues which do have an impact on someone's quality of life. Generally, most men, but it's most common amongst men after the age of 35. So others, literature would tell you from about the age of 40, this problem becomes prevalent. As men are growing, we also go through our own phase of what's called andropause. So that's also a new term in the world of men's health. The same way our female folk go through menopause, men also go through their own phase of andropause. So by andropause, it's a fancy word, but just meaning that the androgen, in this case, the testosterone levels, which is responsible for everything male-related, their sexual functions, and also just their general well-being, the masculinity that defines males, is driven by this androgen called testosterone. So when you get to this age group, most men who experience this nosedive, like there is a gradual decline in the amount of testosterone that the body is producing. So etiology, so there is already that's happening, but also there are also other things that make it get worse. So which is where now issues of our lifestyle come in. What are we doing? So normally we're finding that when men are getting to this age, this is the time when they are getting to these positions of responsibility, like getting into middle to senior management, and these call for greater responsibility, and with this responsibility comes the issue of stress. And so you find there's stress that's happening this side. Most people are building their families, or they have projects, they want to probably build their careers. The moment the level of stress starts going up, in turn, it also has an effect on a lot of things, one of which is testosterone. So a level of testosterone will get suppressed, like because the hormone responsible for stress is very similar to the testosterone hormone. And so the body's production of testosterone will reduce. Why? Because the body needs to focus on things that will help it survive. And an erection in the strata of the body's function is a residual function. Even though to a man it's a P1, but to the way the body is designed, this is a very, very residual function. So it's important that we understand that bit. So there are also lifestyle issues to consider here. One, normally during this age group, I think people are, because they're getting more comfortable, we find NCDs are also on the rise. Vis-a-vis problems with lipids, we call them dyslipidemias, diabetes, mainly the type 2 diabetes, which is more of a lifestyle thing. Then there's also an issue of hypertension, high blood pressure. And so, all these things have a way of impacting someone's sexual life. How will your sugar affect you? So sugar, if left unchecked or uncontrolled, has the possible deleterious effect of injuring someone's blood vessels and also nerves, which are crucial for maintaining an erection. When you talk about hypertension in a nutshell means we are addressing now two things. There's the issue of the pump and also the issue of the blood vessels. So the pump is now being made to pump at a high pressure. In this case, we're talking about the heart. Why? Because for some reason, there is increased resistance in the blood vessels. This resistance can come about because maybe there's accumulation of fat, or because the blood vessels are injured for various reasons. Some would get infection in the blood vessels, some just products, metabolites from things, cigarette smoking, and now there are new things that people are smoking. So these things have a way of causing these vasculitis or infections in the blood vessels, and the impact of which is rises in the blood pressure. So now you can imagine if at all someone's blood pressure is say on a normal day when they're relaxed, their blood pressure is around 160, 170. So should they try and indulge in sexual activity, they get excited. And so the body's response is to prepare now for this excitement. The blood pressure actually goes up. And so because the blood pressure goes up, sometimes it might even shoot to something as high as 200. I'm sure we're all familiar with stories. We've read stories of people who've gone on these outings and ended up dead, or they suffered a severe or a stroke because their blood pressure, they didn't know that they actually had blood pressure issues. How do people know, or what are the signs and symptoms to say someone is probably having this problem of erectile dysfunction? So one of the key things that we look out for is, as a man, are you having a morning erection? Because that's important. So a morning erection coincides with the moment when the body is producing maximal testosterone. And this happens in the early hours of the morning. So that is an unprovoked erection. It starts happening because it's coinciding with the body's own time of producing testosterone. So meaning, if you notice that this is not happening, it should actually start worrying you. You need to get checked, because we want to identify modifiable causes. By modifiable, I mean things that we can change early, so that we don't leave it until things are, down before we start jumping. 2, another thing that you might want to address is, I'm sure our partners, we encourage partners to be quite open about their sexuality and sexual performance. I mean, let's talk about these things. If at all we are loving enough to have sex, then we should be loving enough to actually be honest about the performance and the things around us, because I'm sure if there's dissatisfaction or lack of performance, it will impact on the quality of the relationship. So both partners are encouraged to just give a little feedback, so that when you notice the man is actually failing to hold an erection, failing to actually last or even achieve an erection, these are things that we need to come forward. Let us not make excuses to say maybe the man is stressed at work. Yes, it could be that they are stressed, but could also be that there could be other things that are happening. So are there any treatments for this problem? Definitely. But before we can address the treatment, we need to know what the problem is, because we find a good number of people actually, when if I were to grade it, in 40% of people are going to find the cause of this erectile dysfunction. In the other 60%, you find all these things are going to screen someone and you won't be able to find anything wrong with them. There are people who, for example, have problems with just the testosterone itself. Something that we would call hypogonadism, like where the level of testosterone just start dropping for one reason or the other. And these people, their treatment is different. So I think the bottom line is there is no a one-size-fits-all type of approach when dealing with issues to do with an erection. So individualized care is important, which is why I think the therapies that are given at social gatherings might not work for everyone. Why? Because their problems are caused by different things. And so it is important that whoever, or when you notice our partner or yourself, you notice that you're having this problem with an erection, please let us link ourselves to care. No, if someone is having erectile dysfunction, their ability to have children is gone. No, there are different degrees. So someone who can't have an erection, then definitely this side might be a problem. Or unless they use other assisted reproductive methods like the IVF and the like, where we're able to extract semen like directly from the testicles and things like that. But by and large, a good number of them are able to. But I think what's important is, again, the emphasis is let people get screened. Get screened, we know what's causing this, so that we know how best to treat you. Remember, if you're going over the counter, two things are happening. One, of course, initially you start in a low dose. That's if the person that's prescribing and giving you that medication cares enough to tell you to say, for this, start at a lower dose. But the more you use it, the more you realize to say, for you to get that appreciable response, you need to increase on the dosage. So if that's the case, then you know, obviously, there's something happening to your receptors. I remember one patient who reported to say, for them to have an erection, they need to swallow 12 pills of Viagra. Yes, as alarming as that was, that was exactly my expression to say, how is it possible? They say, until I've taken 12, I will not see an erection. And so this is someone obviously who started with 1. They go to 2, they go to 3, it was working and things were seemingly okay. But because I think they didn't decide to seek care, things had actually deteriorated. So this was a hypertensive patient who, by the time they're waking up to get treated, things had actually reached the terminal end. Like, there was really nothing much we could do to help rescue the situation. And so, yes, whereas in the interim, they would help, but because you've not addressed the cause, the actual cause of this problem, you find that there will be no permanent solution. So what you're trying to encourage is for people to aim to get like a more permanent solution than the quick fixes. Yes, of course, you've heard of these herbs that people are able to take. They're able, either topical or they ingest. And most of them actually end up with something that we call priapism. They have this erection that comes and never goes away. So you find this is the first and last time someone will have an erection. And so because in our nature, we know that for the erection to go down, you need to ejaculate. So you find this guy goes rampant, that the whole day goes without it going down. And what's happening to this tissue is it actually gets tired. Remember, these are cells. So the cells their blood needs to be changed. So now what's happening is you have blood that's gone into the penile tissue and it can't come out. So if it can't come out, you have an accumulation of metabolites, and now these will end up just destroying the organ completely. So these are men who, when this happens, and normally they never come forth to tell you the truth of what they took. So what ends up happening is they're just never going to have an erection. When you're trying to understand erectile dysfunction, there's also a relative way of looking at it. So like where there's attraction, there's less stress, I think the relationship is healthy. Obviously, someone's sexual performance will actually be okay. But importantly, people need to be in tip-top condition, like in terms of their general health, for things to be able to work. So that's why we're emphasizing on lifestyle, very, very important. Routine screens, very, very important. And most of all, if you've noticed there's a problem from any of the things that you've listed, get help. Even for the women folk, if at all you've noticed that there's a problem somewhere, we keep shooting before time. Get us, link us to care. Guide us to go for care in a loving manner. This is one of the best places to come to. Why? Because there are different cadres that are going to attend to you. So it starts from the junior most person who keep elevating until we get to the most senior most person. So meaning chances of you getting the best care is definitely something that we cannot obviously rule out. So definitely once you walk in, you'll be screened, and I think most of the best people to help you are actually found at UTH. So not just in urology, the urologist will look at you and see if there's a problem that needs to be addressed by other cadres. They will refer you to the rightful specialist to address their primary cause of your problem. So what's important is make the step. Don't mind the queues or the waiting time. It really, really is helpful, and it will be worth your time. Believe you me.